I hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. And I know that we are. It was good to get outside this weekend. Been camping, and delighted to be back. All right, so we're just going to give this a few more minutes for folks to start up. I'll share my screen here. The host has disabled participant screen sharing. You'll have to allow me to share screen.
I've allowed it. Sorry about that.
No worries. Okay. All right. Well, while we're waiting, I'm going to share a quick story. This workshop was initially designed as a workshop for students. It was something I created a couple years ago for a school I was working with in Greensboro, North Carolina. The school is called Noble Academy, and they are a wonderful, wonderful school that we've been working with for many, many years. And they asked me to come in and do a workshop for teens to actually be able to develop some of their self-advocacy skills. You'll note that the workshop shifts back and forth between things that you can do and things that you can have your son or daughter focus on. So please keep that in mind as we facilitate the workshop. I am going to give it just 2 more minutes and then we'll get started. Okay, so how many folks do we have on Facebook now, Brittany? Okay. All right, well, Sarah, welcome. We're happy to have you. All right, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So as parents, one of the things that we're always trying to do is help our children find their voice and be able to self-advocate. You know, we have to do a lot of the advocacy for them initially, and the goal is always to have them be able to do more of that themselves. I'm John Willson. I am SOAR's Executive Director. I've been working with this population of youth for over 25 years. And we've learned a few things along the way, and we're happy to pass those on and share those with you. Okay, here are some of the things I'm going to review during this workshop. I'm going to talk about how to help kids become more self-aware, how to help create the environment that they need, how to foster self-reliance. I'm going to talk a little bit about support systems and how to manage those and why they're so critical. Certainly, we're going to talk about developing effective communication strategies. And as those of you who've attended many of our workshops, I'm going to review the proposal system again and fine-tune the art of negotiation. I will say I actually found my son's, if you've attended any of our workshops before, the webinars before, I've referenced the tool that my son used. I actually found his handwritten tool, his proposal. So you've got that to look forward to. You'll recognize the handwriting as someone who has some fairly profound learning challenges. Okay, so what is self-advocacy? All right, and so for me, self-advocacy is an individual's ability to effectively communicate, convey, negotiate, or assert his or her own interests, desires, needs, and rights. It involves decision-making, informed decision-making, and taking responsibility for those decisions. Now, we recognize that for many of our kids, sometimes they make impulsive choices and then don't take responsibility. However, as we're asking these young men and women to start making some decisions about their lives, it's important to understand how to help nurture those ingredients that help them self-advocate. All right. So let's talk about self-awareness. Now, I think that it's important that kids learn what their dominant learning preferences are. Do I take in information better if I read it? Do I take information better if I listen to it? Am I the kind of person who needs to tear my hands into it, pull it all apart in order for me to be able to understand that? I also believe, and we have done this with both of our children, that they attend their IEP meetings. And in fact, as they get older, they start preparing more for the IEP meetings with questions and recommendations that they're bringing to the IEP meeting. This is not a meeting in which a bunch of adults are getting around to talk about our kids. Our kids need to be involved in those decisions from an early age, and ultimately be a vibrant part of that process. I think that I encourage young men and women to determine what they need in a homework space or a workspace, so that they can absolutely focus on what it is that they're working on. Do I need music in my homework space? Do I need to be absolutely quiet? What kind of lighting works best for me? And so those are some really critical pieces to think about. I also am a really big fan, and you've heard me talk about this. What are my strengths? What are my challenges? What are my pitfalls? And knowing those things, and then develop ways to maximize, overcome, and avoid those respectively. What are my strengths? Well, my strengths is I'm a good communicator. I'm a people person. I'm very relational. What are some of my challenges? Well, I struggle sometimes to meet deadlines. I'm somebody who, you know, really could benefit from some support when it comes to staying on top of and being task oriented. And some of my pitfalls are things, like that wonderful urgent thing that I just have to finish now, but really has no bearing on the things that I really need to get done. And so how do I maximize and overcome and avoid those things? And I'll tell you that the best secret I have to that is I know what my strengths are, and I play to those strengths. I know what my challenges are, and so I get the support that I need from others. And I set up I set up systems that will allow me to be forward moving, and then recognizing what the areas that I need to avoid, and understand when those triggers come, because like so many of us, I'm just going along my merry way, and then whoop, here comes a pitfall, or quicksand, as is the case, and I find myself sort of immersed in that. I must say, just a quick kind of funny side note about quicksand. I saw a wonderful meme. It said, given how much TV I watched as a kid, I really thought that quicksand was going to play a bigger role in my life than it has. Now, certainly metaphorical quicksand has played a role, but and then I also believe that taking notes according to your learning preference or style during lectures is really important at all meetings. So do I record those? Do I make little notes? And I find that when I make notes, I actually remember the details of those meetings. If I'm just recording something or taking pictures of something, it's no good. I actually am best able to remember things from an important meeting if they are in my own handwriting. What is the ultimate goal? Well, the ultimate goal is self-advocacy. These are my strengths. These are my challenges. These are the tools I need to be successful. So another key ingredient is learning to assess environments for distractions. Make a list of common environments. Determine typical distractions. What are the things that sort of derail me? And then make a plan to deal with each. Because what's the goal? Well, the ultimate goal is self-advocacy. These are my strengths. These are my challenges. These are the tools I need to be successful. These are the things that I'm going to use to overcome the areas that cause me difficulty. I also am going to look for and seek, if I'm a kid, and certainly if you're a parent, look for those for your children, experiences that foster self-reliance. I think it's critical to involve your kids in these experiences that pull them, that stretch them outside of their comfort zone. Look at clubs, volunteerships, summer camps, opportunities that are going to stretch them. And in this day and age of COVID, that becomes a little bit more difficult. But how do we stretch kids out of their comfort zone? Because, your comfort zone is a nice, warm, safe place, but nothing grows there. Develop a key skill set based on those interests. And why do we do that? Because what's the ultimate goal? Well, the ultimate goal is self-advocacy. These are my strengths. These are my challenges. These are the tools I need to be successful. Now, why did I share that with you 3 times? You're going to learn later in my workshop why that has been key. I also think that one of the key elements to becoming a good self-advocate is building those support networks. And you've created support networks for your children, but now it's time to start thinking about how to have them begin to expand those themselves, and who do they want in those. Create a success team around your child, including mentors and peer tutors. Include all available technology and resources. Create a role play scenarios in order to prepare. One of my favorites, when Jay was first trying to get a job, we must have role played the interview that he was going to have at Bojangles. And he went into that Bojangles having done a mock interview with me maybe 15 times. By the time he came home, I said, "How'd the interview go?" He said, "Dad, they didn't hardly ask me any of the questions you asked me." I said, "Well, okay." I said, "When will you hear something?" "No, they hired me right on the spot." So he was ready, and those role plays can be so critical. And I think it's important to know that available supports only grow over time. That's a key aspect to what is happening. So, how do support systems work? I love this little slide. You incorporate families, mentors, teachers, and friends. And I did say friends. And because your kids listen to their friends, and their friends are a critical part of their support network. The key is you have to make sure that those friends are friends that you've selected, that you've chosen, that you understand and agree are going to draw out the best in your child. Develop ways to communicate your thoughts and feelings. And this is something that I want your kids to do. Again, talking about role-playing important conversations in advance. Call a family meeting, and anybody in the family. This is a great way for kids to practice self-advocacy. Have them call a family meeting and be prepared to listen and talk with them. I also think it's important to help kids understand a little bit about nonverbal communication. If I move in really, really close and my audience kind of draws back, what does that mean? Very often, if I do that, if I move in really close and I get closer and closer and closer, and I'm in somebody's face and they pull back, what do I often do if I'm one of these kids? Well, I just keep coming forward, and that is often kind of off-putting. And so understanding how that might be off-putting would be really important. Encourage your kids to use I statements. I feel this way because next time I will. Instead of, what do they say? You should have done this, you should have done that, it was them, it's not my fault. But when I start to take ownership and I climb the accountability ladder, then I become to take ownership of my life, and I become an ability to self-advocate for what my thoughts and needs and feelings are. How do I feel about this? What can I do to change this? Next time I'm going to take this into consideration. And then I also think it's really critical when talking about communication is sometimes it's best to communicate through emails or texts. And why? Why is that so important? All right. Well, part of it is that I don't, if I'm communicating via email or text, one or the other do not have to put up with the sighs or the eye rolls, or, you know, just sometimes our faces can be so expressive, and our faces and the expression on our faces derail where our kids are coming from. Or, you know, my daughter, you know, this is my classic, this is Landry's new move. All right. And when she does that to me, when she points at me and she does the little heart with the little snarky face, I know that means you're pissing me off, and you know, I'm going to be as flippant about my acquiescence as I can be. And it just drives me bananas. But if we're having a conversation through text or emails, I don't have to deal with. So, and by the way, this is a little heart that she does. All right. And I think it's important for our kids to learn how to reframe key words, right? Because there are certain words that just are unnecessary. You know, I can't. Right? I mean, I've had kids on rock climbs telling me all the ways they're climbing up the mountain that they can't. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. And I'll say, okay, stop for a second. Look where you are, and they're at the top. So how do you reframe I can't? All right. Can I? I think maybe I can. All right, here's another one. I should have. I should have done this. I should have done that. Way too many of these kids are shooting all over themselves. So what's a great, here's what I learned. I love that because it becomes more specific. This is what I learned. And for many of our kids, if they write down what they learned, again, there's something that happens through the art of writing it down and then actually incorporating that back to what they're doing. And so I think that is just so, so critical. All right, let's see now. What's another one here? I'll try. All right, I'll try is okay, but what is better than I'll try? I will. Was it Yoda? I think it was, who said, try? There's no try. There's only do or do not. That's my best Yoda. All right, so this is what my son and I worked on so much in the interview process. And so as you're teaching kids to self-advocate, I absolutely want to focus a little bit of my time and attention to this today. What are the 3 things you want other people to know about you? Okay, what are they? Now, before we move on, I would like a couple of my participants to, in the chat bar, share with me, what are the 3 things you want people to know about you? Let's just go ahead and do a quick exercise. Go ahead, folks. This just helps me confirm that people are actually out there and listening. Thank you, Nicole. Nicole wrote that she enjoys helping others, and that's one of the things that she wants people to know about her. I like it. If I can get 3 more, I'll keep going. Here we go. Pierre, who I am, who I am, who I am. Oh, look at you, Pierre. The three messages. I love it. All right, waiting for one more. Sarah, thank you. She lives in California, 2 kids. I'm terrified of homeschooling. Okay, so those are okay. So those are your messages. And so in our case, Sarah wants us to know that she lives in California. She's got 2 elementary age kids, and you know the idea of homeschooling really is kind of terrifying. I appreciate that. Why is this so important? And I'm going to explain that now, because it's communication math. All right. 3 times 3 equals, can anybody guess what 3 times 3 equals? 3 times 3 equals, you guessed it, it equals 1. It equals 1. How is that possible? Why does 3 times 3 equals 1? Well, If I give you three messages, three different, if I decide that these are the three things that I want you to know about me, and in the conversation we have where I'm trying to self-advocate, I keep circling back to those three things, there's a chance that you may walk away having heard one of those things, but you'll have heard one of those things. I'll share with you who uses this beautifully. Have you ever seen the Sunday morning news shows when they have politicians on and they're asking them questions, and they ask them a very direct question and they give them an answer that has nothing to do with the answer to the question, and yet it has weaved into their on-point message? Well, it's because they've received communication math training, and they'll take whatever question they're given and they'll find a way to incorporate one of their top three messages, and they'll infuse that message into, and they'll keep circling back to that, so that perhaps when the interview is over, the audience will have heard one of their major messages. Communication math. And it's a fun thing to think about, especially when my son and I were doing the job interview process. We really talked. Jay, what are your top three strengths? Well, I'm a hard worker. I'm good with people, and I can be counted on. And so those were the things that he found a way to keep weaving into that conversation. Because what is the ultimate goal of self-advocacy? These are my strengths, these are my challenges, and these are the tools that I need to be successful. All right, if you've been to my webinars before, you've heard me talk about the proposal system. The proposal system is what they want or change that they're asking for, and they do this in writing prior to meeting with me. A list of reasons that they think I would deny their proposal, a solution to overcome that challenge, and conditions for maintaining the change provided. And I've mentioned my son wanting to use the computer. Well, I actually found this last week, as I was looking through some things, the actual document that my son presented to me, and it was his initial proposal. Now it changed and morphed into something a little bit more sophisticated when it was all said and done, but this was his initial proposal. And for those of you that would like that haven't heard this story before, Jay wanted to be able to use the computer when he got home from school to play games because his mind needed a rest. And the rule was that you couldn't play on the computer until all of your homework was done. And so let's take a look and see what that looked like in his own writing. This is what it said. I'm in the 7th grade. This rule was formed for me to do my homework. I usually get it done. Number 2, things you will say no because you have something to rule for me. I think because you like to create rules, because you imagine that I won't do my homework, because you don't like me on the computer. Because you like me off the CPU. His next one was, I'll get my work done by 9:30. If I don't get it done, I don't get the computer the next day. If I don't get it at 9:30, then no CPU the next day. All right, and so these were his conditions. And so ultimately, when we worked on it, it went through a couple different incantations. I've shared one of those with you, but this is kind of what we kind of came to. I'm now in the 7th grade. The rule was put in place for me to make me do my homework. I usually get my work done. All right, because you've had this rule for a while, because you want me to finish my homework, and you like me off the computer. Terms and conditions, I will get my work done by 9:30. If I don't get it done, I won't have access to my CPU the next day. If I don't get it done by 9:30, I lose the CPU for the next day. And then we had an even more sophisticated one that I've shared in previous webinars, and I did an entire webinar on the proposal system. But it's kind of fun. So I think when we are encouraging our kids to learn how to self-advocate, it's important that we teach them how to plan ahead. And again, understand your abilities and your challenges. And then if they're going to be advocating at school for themselves, know your rights. As our young people become young adults, know what your rights at work are. Knowing your rights is a critical part of being able to self-advocate. All right. I think it's also critical for people to seek resources and accommodations, and then work to develop support networks and, and in part, as kids embark onto college, there are wonderful resources and supports that are out there. And, what I find so often is that many parents will do all the research and kids won't take advantage of that. But if you create an environment in which they are learning to resource or to collect those resources and seek those accommodations and really actively think about how they could apply them in their lives, they become a little more invested in what that process looks like. Again, determine your message. These are my strengths. These are my weaknesses. These are the tools I need to be successful. And talking about as kids are transitioning from one grade to the next, or from from middle school to high school, or high school to whatever comes next, figuring out what it is that you want and how you can achieve the goals that you set by being the best version of yourself possible, and then how do you go about getting those things to make sure that they're available to you. That is the art of self-advocacy. Asking questions, making decisions, getting organized, and setting goals. And what I want to share with you is that so often in this section, asking questions, making decisions, getting organized, and setting goals, what is the crime that we often commit as parents? I'll wait for an answer. What are some of the things that we do as parents that derail this process? The asking questions, making decisions, getting organized, and then setting those goals. That's right, Chella. We do it for them. When we do that for them, we have deprived them of the opportunity to invest in that process. And not only have we deprived them of that opportunity, we have also divested them from that process. Because you and I and all of us know that when we do something for them, it becomes significantly less important to them. But when they have to earn it, and when they have to dig, and when they have to kind of come up with a solution, they are always much more invested in what that process looks like. And, and so it's critical to allow them to do that. So what's next for you? Okay. Developing a failing forward with confidence mindset. What does that mean? It means that, that if you do it for them, if you come up with all the answers and have all the questions, I know that and I learned more from my own failures than I learned from people who were trying to help me avoid those pitfalls and failures. Hey, go up here and, and many of you know I'm an avid whitewater canoeist. And people can tell me, okay, so you want to be right at that rock with left boat angle, and then you want to skim the hole there with just the right hull of your boat, and then make a sharp right to left move. Well, that's all fine and well, and you can certainly tell me all that, and I will try and listen, and that may be somewhat helpful for me. But you know what's really going to be the wonderful education for me the next time I do that rapid is actually experience it, and then getting my boat hauled too far in that hole, getting flipped upside down, washing through the hole, and then having to look back on that experience and say, what could I have done differently? And then taking a more critical look at how that happened and what I could do differently. Because when I fail and then I look at how those opportunities might change the way I'm going to approach something the next time, it is absolutely going to change the way that I move forward. It's going to allow me to fail forward with confidence. Setbacks are a part of life. Now, what are you going to do with them? And, honestly, we need setbacks because we learn from them. But how are we then going to self-advocate for the tools and the resources we need in order to overcome those setbacks? Because as I've said before, what is the ultimate goal? These are my strengths. These are my challenges. These are the tools I need to be successful. And that is where the secret lies. How do I determine what the tools are going to be? The tools come from being able to learn how to overcome the setbacks that we experience in our life. I also think that as parents, that as embarking on this process, you want to reinforce effort. Effort is everything. When sometimes kids aren't going to have the result that they want, They're going to study hard for a test, and they're not going to get the grade they want. They're going to practice really hard to make the team, and they're not going to make the team. But it's the effort that they can control. And I love the quote, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work. And so if we are willing to work hard and accomplish things in remarkable ways, and then learn from those experiences, we begin to build on things that, that can be incredibly successful. And success breeds success. And so learning how to then find out what those tools I need are, so that I ultimately can make sure that I am advocating for those tools so that I can be the best version of myself. I think it's really healthy to have kids encourage career exploration and job shadowing that matches their strengths and interests. And how soon is too soon to do that? Well, every self-help book that has ever been written talks about living for something bigger than yourself. And so the sooner kids can get involved in not just job shadowing, but in being some type of service, and then learning from those experiences, those sometimes lead to those incredible interests and strengths that could become career builders. You've heard me say before, never allow the diagnosis of LD or ADHD to be an excuse or hold you back. We set our goals high. We set them to a place that they're achievable, and then we focus our energy and effort being able to learn what we need in order to accomplish those goals. Because one more time, what's the ultimate goal? All right, somebody tell me in the chat box. Let's see how well you've been listening. What's the ultimate goal?
Also, John, I just wanted to make sure you saw Chella's question.
Yeah, but we'll answer that in just a moment.
Great.
Is anybody going to type the ultimate goal here for me? Self-advocacy. Because the ultimate goal is to know these are my strengths, these are my challenges, these are the tools that I need to be successful. I'm a huge fan of this quote from Mae West. I never said it would be easy. I only said it would be worth it. All right, so we're going to answer some questions here. And Chella asked, what do you do for your ADHD children when they just won't put forth the effort needed to have success? Sustaining attention until success begins to happen is a big issue for us in dependence. All right, so that really depends on the age of the child, right? And certainly, I don't mind sharing that a personal challenge for us at home has been, I'm of the philosophy that if I create failure opportunities for my children, they learn from those failure opportunities, and then we can use them as a springboard for, hey, you're faced with a very similar situation that we had last time. What did you learn last time that you can apply this time? My wife is very focused on our kids being able to achieve their goals and objectives. And so sometimes she will go to great lengths to avoid those failure opportunities. I certainly understand that and appreciate that very much. There has to be that balance. But sometimes failure is the thing that allows kids to create, or allows you the opportunity to have a discussion. Now, the most creative and clever way to handle that is to allow or to create these mock failure experiences that that don't have significant consequences, that can then be used to guide a conversation in preparation for for developing and sustaining the effort needed to accomplish something. I also understand that kids putting in the effort is a real challenge. All right, what do kids want to do? They don't want to do the things that you want them to do. They want to play video games. They want to hang out with their friends. They want to, they want to do the things they want to do. And so as parents, I have to try and create opportunities that are going to have them so invested in being able to experience this opportunity that it allows me to have them complete some of these more difficult tasks. I'll give you examples. If I really want my daughter to have her room clean, then the best thing to do is to let her invite a friend over. Friend can't come over until the room is clean. If I really want my my son to get an A on an exam, I will tie, the ability to have certain resources on the computer, or, increase the amount of time that he has on that, because that's what he's invested in. And now I've created this external locus of investment. This is this external investment in order for him to try and achieve those things. Intrinsic motivation cannot be forced. It's that wonderful, adage, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And so the answer here is that we have to figure out ways to salt the hay. We have to figure out ways to motivate them in order to try and help them put in the effort. You're talking about sustaining attention until success begins to happen is such a big issue. And you're right. So you take little baby steps, and you take these little moments, and you pick one small thing, and you and your partner really rack your brain as to how you're going to create an opportunity where they can invest, potentially fail, have a conversation, and attack it again. And the more you do it, and the more opportunities you create, then on the back end of that, that's when the really remarkable conversations happen, and you start talking about what are the resources that allowed you to be successful. How well did this work? How poorly did this work? What needs to happen now? What's going to allow us to be more successful next time? And then right before the next time happens, have a conversation. Do you remember that we learned the following things the last time we were in a similar situation? What are we going to do this time that's going to make it different so that we can be successful, so that you can be successful? I'm looking forward to hearing your plan. And then perhaps there's a carrot out there that they don't have access to until you hear what the plan is. Okay, are there any additional questions for folks? I really enjoyed giving this webinar. It's something that's very near and dear to my heart, and I love talking about ways to help kids self-advocate, because the more they learn how to do that, the more powerful that opportunity is for them in remarkable ways.
We haven't had any questions on Facebook, but a few hellos to you, Big John, from Robin Ritter, Andy Farnworth, as well as Julia Kahane. So I'll let you look at those once we're wrapped up.
Andy, reaching out to us from England. Hey, buddy, it's great to see you. I don't see you, but I'm glad you joined us. That's fun. Gail, how do you help them give up on wanting something they can't have? Oh, that's so hard. And so for me, the answer is I begin talking about what they can attain, right? And that's, what can you accomplish? What can you have? And then do those baby steps, do those small steps lead up to the bigger thing that you need or want? I had a young student years ago, and she wanted to be the next Katie Couric. Well, there's only one Katie Couric, right? And so that's a fairly unobtainable goal. And so, but what can you do? What can you accomplish? And how might you get there? And what are the steps that you could take in order to work towards that goal, but are attainable goals? And that is much better than just having them give up on a dream that that they believe is absolutely possible, because there's all kinds of measures to what is possible based on the amount of effort. And then I would also, Gail, I'd have a very honest conversation about what can you control versus what can't you control. And sometimes the things that people really want are a stroke or a matter of luck. And sometimes what is luck? Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And so how do you be prepared in case that lucky thing does happen? All right, any other questions? Okay, well, with that, we're going to close this out. I'm trying to keep these webinars under 45 minutes, and I appreciate your time. It's been an absolute pleasure and continues to be. I thank you for the opportunity to be a part of your lives in remarkable ways. I'd like to remind you that next week, we're going to talk about stubborn or tenacious, the power of persistence, and how we can help our kids channel their inner tenacity in order to overcome and accomplish things that sometimes they really need to. All right. Well, with that being said, thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing you next week. And you folks take great care. Bye-bye.